Synthesis of protein or translation. As we all know, translation of mRNA is the biological polymerization of amino acids into polypeptide chains. Now, this whole process occurs with the help of ribosomes, which serve as the workbenches on which the whole process itself takes place. Apart from ribosome, transfer RNA or tRNA is an adapter molecule which adapts the genetic information which is present in the mRNA in the form of triplet codons, which we have already done in last class, and that those triplet codons are decoded with the help of this adapter molecule into corresponding amino acids. So this is the whole workflow that goes about in, or rather the flow of genetic information that goes about, where first the information stored in DNA gets transcribed into these sequence of mRNA, and from mRNA that information is translated into the sequence of amino acids of a protein. Now, before we start the process itself, let's look at the components which are required for the translation. Now, first and foremost is ribosomes. Now, each bacterial cell, because we'll be concentrating upon the prokaryotic translation, so I'll be giving you all the information about the prokaryotic translation only in this presentation. Now, each bacterial cell contains about 10,000 ribosomes, whereas in comparison a eukaryotic cell will have many more than that, obviously because there are many more genes to be translated. Then each ribosome is actually made up of two subunits. One of them is called the large subunit and the other is the small subunit. Now both the subunits, what are they made up of? They are made up of ribosomal RNA and some proteins which are known as ribosomal proteins. So it's actually a compilation of ribosomal RNA and ribosomal proteins. Now when these two subunits they come together, they form a single unit which is known as monosome, and that is when it is known as a single ribosome. Now the RNA components of the ribosome is responsible for the catalytic function that occurs during translation, whereas the proteins which are part of the ribosome, they help in binding of the various molecules which are involved in, and rather it is also involved in fine tuning the process itself. But the catalytic function which happens during translation is because of the RNA component of the ribosome. So we know that as of now we know that each ribosome is made up of RNA as well as proteins, and the RNA which is present in the ribosome is known as ribosomal RNA. Now there are two subunits in each ribosome, and when the two subunits come together they make a single ribosome, and that structure is called monosome. The catalytic function is carried out by the ribosomal RNA, and the proteins they are involved in the binding of the various molecules which are involved in translation. Now there are certain differences between prokaryotic ribosomes and eukaryotic ribosomes. Like for example, prokaryotic ribosome, the one complete unit which is called a monosome is 70S, whereas a monosome in a eukaryote is 80S. If you look at the size, it is 2.5 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton, whereas the other one is a 4.2 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton. Now if we look at the two subunits separately, large subunit is 50S, whereas small subunit is 30S. Similarly, in eukaryote, or rather dissimilarly in eukaryote, the large subunit is 60S and the small subunit is 40S. Now I hope you know what this S means here, and why this 60 plus 40 is not 100, rather it is 80, and why this 50/30 is not 80, rather 70. I'm not going into details of that. If you don't know, you can always contact me and I'll let you know. Now whereas the other components involved, like you look at the proteins which make up these ribosomes, the 23S RNA, rRNA has 31 proteins. These large subunit is made up of two types of RNAs, 23S RNA and 5S rRNA and 31 protein, whereas small subunit is made up of 16S rRNA and 21 protein. And whereas in eukaryote the composition is a little different. So these are differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic ribosomes, which is important from exams point of view, which sometimes, sometimes they ask you these differences, which you should know. Now, the other very, very important component which is required for translation is tRNA or transfer RNA. Now, transfer RNA is basically made up of 75 to 90 nucleotides. It is a 75 to 90 nucleotide long molecule which has almost a similar structure in bacteria and eukaryotes. Now, when they're transcribed from DNA, they are a bigger molecules. They usually are, like for example, in E. coli, tRNA is about 126 when it is transcribed from DNA. But when it comes into its the final form, it is made up of only 77 nucleotide, because the other nucleotide, they are usually cleaved before it matures into a final form of tRNA. Now, the structure, or the complete sequence of tRNA is credited to Robert Hawley and his colleagues, who in 1965 they reported the complete sequence of tRNA. If you look at why this ALA, because they reported the structure of tRNA which is involved with the amino acid alanine, for carrying this amino acid alanine. Now, they isolated it from yeast and they proposed the clover leaf structure of the tRNA, and they shared a Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine for their work. Now, there are many more nucleotides which are unique. There are many nucleotides which are unique to tRNA, and we call them as modified bases, because we know that our RNA usually are made up of what? AUGC, adenine, uracil, guanine, and cytosine. But apart from these four usual bases, nucleotide bases which are found in RNA, tRNA has certain modified bases, and each of these modified bases is actually a modification of these four nitrogenous bases. Now, if you look at these modified bases, some of them are like this isonic acid, then methyl isonic ionosinic acid, 1-methyl guanylic acid. So these are some of the bases which are usually not found in anywhere else other than transfer RNA. Now, apart from these, RNA also has this tRNA also has a characteristic secondary structure. Why the secondary structure? Because otherwise, if you look at the linear sequence, there are many stretches in this linear sequence of tRNA which can form a base, which have the probability or the propensity of base pairing, of base pairing. Now, base pairing within the sequence, because they have complementary bases here, because of the presence of complementary bases here, what happens, this linear sequence get folded into such a structure, and we call this as a cloverleaf model of tRNA. Now, if you look at these, there are many stems and there are many loops. We call them as unpaired loops, because there are the bases which are present here, they are not complementary to the base which is opposited. However, because of the complementarity of the opposite bases, there is base pairing here. So because of these base sequences in the tRNA doesn't remain in a linear form. It rather gets folded into such a structure where there are base paired stems and unpaired loops. And usually the loops which are present here, which do not base pair, they usually have the modified bases. So because they cannot base pair with these usual bases, so these regions within the tRNA, they remain unpaired. Now, if we look at the structure in detail, there are certain parts of it which have been named on the basis of their function, rather. Like if you look at this particular region, this is known as the amino acid arm. Why amino acid? Because at this end, which is the 3' end of the tRNA, the amino acid binding will take place. Okay, now sequence here, always in all the tRNAs, it is CCA. Now the CCA is known as, or this arm is known as, the amino acid acceptor arm. So amino acids, they bind to this arm during protein synthesis. Now, if we go from this direction to this, from 3' to 5, from 5' to 3', or in the anti-clockwise direction, the next arm that we see is this arm, which is called the D arm. Now, this arm has 3 to 4 base pairs and a loop called D loop. Now, because of the modified base dihydrouracil, this is the arm is also has been given the name D arm. Now, the next arm that we see is the anticodon arm. Now, this is the arm which lies exactly opposite to the acceptor arm. Now, it has 5 bases which are paired, and then there is a loop where the codon is the anticodon for the complementary codon of the mRNA is present. So here is the anticodon which is present, which is complementary to the sequence in the mRNA. Now next is the small loop that we see here. This is also called variable loop because it can have as less as 3 bases, but it can also have as many as 21 bases. Now there are two types of variable arms. There are small extra arm with 3 to 5 bases, and sometimes it is a large arm having 13 to 21 bases. Now the next arm that we see is the T arm or the 3,5C arm. Now this is the arm which also has a modified base called pseudouridine 5, and it has a 5 base pair stem and a loop, and all the tRNAs and on the basis of that this has been given this name. Now if you look at this region, all the tRNAs at their 5' end will always have a guanine residue. So at 3' end it is always going to be a sequence CCA where the amino acid will come and bind and at the 5' end it is always a guanine residue that is seen.